You are now entering the Cue the Muses podcast. Please reserve submission of any joy meter statistics until after the program.
Welcome to Cue the Muses podcast.
Welcome and hello and salutations. Good Tuesday morning to
Good
you.
morrow.
Good
morrow.
Good over morrow. I think I'll just set that anywhere.
Just put that
you
back
doing,
there.
man?
That's where it goes. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Staying busy as always in, production land over here. And how about yourself?
Good. Not bad. I got a little bit of the transmission work started on Sunday. My Jeep's still sitting down there. I've got all the parts and pieces now to take care of it. But yeah, so the strike. Right now, I wrote the numbers down earlier. So for a couple of months, actually, I think it's been going on for, don't quote me on the number, but like 40 days or 50 days so far. The writers have been on strike in Hollywood. Right. That's over 11,000 writers. And then as of, I think 3 days ago, the Screen Actors Guild joined the strike, which added over 160,000 actors on strike against I forget the acronym for the production companies, but there's one acronym that's basically
AM/FM radio.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're a part of these organizations in a big way.
Yeah, but so they decided to strike against these companies that are holding wages to a standard that was set in the 60s. When Ronald Reagan was president of SAG, they went on strike and they renegotiated because of cable television. In the 60s, the reason they went on strike and the reason they renegotiated their contract values was because cable television was revolutionizing the acting industry. Before it was movies and there wasn't cable, it was just films. So actors made films. Films were made by production houses and they were released in theaters. And that was kind of it. Then cable changed the world with reruns. And then they went on strike and they got, they negotiated for basically, I'm not saying this right, but basically for royalties for the reruns being played, that every time an episode of a television show that one of the actors or the writers worked on, they would get the residual pay from it. And then that happened again a couple of times. I think the next one was in like 83. And then there was another big one that lasted for 100 days in 2007.
I think it was
which was
2008 maybe, but it was right. Well, I think there were two that were close in there or something where they did an actual strike, Yeah. But so the last time in the 80s had to do with VHS. I believe that's when tape had really come into the fold. Now that created a new situation to try and figure out, well, what do we do with this? There's another distribution platform. How do we also get a piece of this additional? I believe that was when that came into play.
Well, and I know every time the industry changes in such an amount that it affects the pay and it affects the lives of the writers and the actors, this kind of thing has been happening, they go back to the drawing board. I know I wrote down I think it was an episode of 60 Minutes that I watched earlier today. In 2007 or 2008, they were shut down. They were on strike for 100 days. And the impact of that shutdown was for California's economy, which a big part is Hollywood, $2.1 billion was lost. Revenue because of that strike. And that strike was so impactful because 2007 was before streaming, before Netflix was a streaming platform. There was no Hulu. There was none of that stuff was there. So cable TV was your nightly watch. Your family time was watching cable. And when they were on strike, cable was made like in relatively close proximity to air, especially like with the South Park documentary we talked about in the other episode, a couple episodes back, they make their episodes in 1 week and air it at the end of the week.
Right.
And they still do that.
They still do that for broadcast, but this whole
Yeah.
streaming aspect is a complete game changer, and nobody quite knows what to do with it. And there's also the idea that with streaming, it's a black box as to what the plays are that people are getting. So if you're somebody that hosts your content on one of these platforms, they do not tell you how well it's done. They just offer you the next contract. And you know, in theory, if they up the budget, that means that you did very well, but you really have no idea what the leverage room is other than trying to analyze pop culture, see how popular it is on different lists, but you don't know what the actual numbers are. Whereas broadcast, you had the ratings. You still have the ratings on broadcast where you can see it really dropping much lower in comparison to where, you know, streaming has now taken over a large portion of watch time content for consumers. So everything's less on broadcast. That's the only thing they can monitor. Actors and screenwriters can't monitor what's happening inside of these streaming platforms. And it sounds like in some cases they're kind of getting, you know, cents on the dollar. You're talking about some of these wages right now, and basically my understanding is that SAG goes back every 3 years. They get to renegotiate what the contract is. A major overhaul like this, where it's an entirely different model, is what they're really chiming for right now. And basically the people are making, even in this high inflation market, they're making less than they made in 2020. And this would have to give them a good, you know, a safety net of income that they could count on. This would be the negotiated contract till 2026. So if inflation keeps going up, they're still making less than they made in 2020. Not to mention, they didn't feel like they were making enough in 2020. It sounds like. I got this one example of from Orange is the New Black. There was a few people off that cast that had kind of given away some very specific information about how much they made over the course of time. And this guy, Matt McGorry, he actually is, you know, I did not see this show, so I'm sorry that I don't know which actor he is. I sound so naive.
What I do know about that show, I don't want to derail the conversation, but I do know that Orange is the New Black is one of the first mainstream successful television shows that is exclusively for Netflix. Yeah. Not a cable show. It was born and it was derived as a streaming platform's original property.
It helped launch Netflix. It was so popular. And this guy, Matt McGorry, he kept his day job the whole time they were doing that show because it paid better. Now, I don't know what the dude did during the day. He might have been like, maybe he made a shit ton of money during the day, but I doubt it.
Some people make a lot of money, but
that's true. But he pulled off doing both, right?
It's insane because I know how big Orange is the New Black is. Or was, or if you know, and had that have been a show on CBS or Fox or whatever back 10 years or 15 years ago before streaming, that paycheck would have been a lot different.
Oh, a lot different. And then there's another example. I've got two more examples just from that one show. There's a writer for that show, Kira Jones, and she was giving the example that basically she would have made $12,000 for broadcast for the amount of work that she had done. But the streaming example was that she made $4,000. So you're talking about a third of what she would have made if she was doing broadcast. And the other thing that gets brought up about this that they're complaining about is that ultimately, you know, there's way less episodes per season on streaming platform shows than there is on broadcast. It's like literally half. So it's less work and paid less.
And so I was watching an interview today. It's less work. Streaming platforms, it's a different writing process for the writers too. So the writers, there was a good example I saw today. When the writers used to write for cable TV, they would break in the writing for the commercials because you have to set up a commercial break. When you write for television with commercials, you set it up for the commercial break so that there's a cliffhanger. So obviously the people watching, they don't change the channel during a commercial. I got to stay and see what's happening after this. And that was implemented in to the writing process. With Netflix and the streaming platform, there's no commercial break. So it's actually more linear for the writing process. And the writers would say that that's actually a better, it's better. It makes it easier to write. Yeah. Cause then they can do a traditional beginning, middle, and end in the story. But now with streaming, what they would do is like these streaming platforms, they purchase like these shows under a contract, kind of like, okay, we're gonna pay to put Seinfeld on for 6 months on Netflix. I'm talking hypothetical here. Now that's a one-time payment for 6 months, and everyone gets the one-time payment. And that payment could mean that one of the writer number one gets $400 for that one-time purchase. But then Netflix will carry that and stream it however many times in that 6 months. And there is not an additional payment. If it was on cable TV with reruns, every time that show gets played, that writer would get another check every time. And then that number would equal, like you said, but the numbers that I saw was $400 versus $24,000 over a year's time of just being out there and being on.
Yeah. Well, and the last example on this Orange is the New Black thing is that it was another actor, and she was actually showing, she put up a TikTok post that went viral. It showed her paycheck for her residuals on Orange is the New Black. She's one of the stars, Kamika Glenn. And unless it's a Kamiko Glenn and it's actually a guy, and I'm like so out of the loop. But basically this star.
Never seen it. Go ahead.
$27.31, right? On a top flight, top tier performing show. That's the residual that they got. So that's pretty different.
That's insane. That is insane. Yeah. And I saw that analogy today too. And I had to think, my mind just instantly went back to whatever year that was when Lars Ulrich sued Napster.
That's right. Yeah.
You remember it was like, it would have been like 99, 98, 99, somewhere in there. And online MP3s were just becoming the thing, and it was music sharing on the internet, and you could download songs, and then everything changed for the music industry, and it tanked. Like bands couldn't make money off of their music in a form of.
It's never been the same. I mean, this is kind of like seeing a wave of the film industry go through what the music industry went through. It's different. But it's similar in that it's like there's just the expectation and output and the pay rate, because if we were going to get into pay that you get for Spotify plays, I mean, it's fractions of a cent per play, right?
Yeah, it's worth a strike. For that's almost a done deal.
And that's what's interesting is that as far as music goes, there's not an equivalent way. This is why we kind of wanted to talk about this, guys, is for two reasons. One, we're independent filmmakers that has a show that's also a rock album, and we reveal our rock album inside of 30-minute episodes of the show via music video. So we're like kind of in between the music industry and the film industry, and we've been trying to get this show out there and hopefully get somebody to scoop it up for a while now. And the other thing about this is that just when it comes to the actual music itself and music streaming, there's really like no comparison of a union, even though there's ASCAP and BMI and things like that. It's interesting to see a writers guild and the way that this works and the way that an actors guild works, where they can do a strike, because it's not like musicians can really do that. There's so many independent people putting out almost the same quality content as the biggest players in the game. Whereas with film, you really see the production difference is absolutely there between a Star Wars and a Cue the Muses. It's very evident, but music wise, you can get so damn close to like the biggest players in the game. But when it comes to a high production, there's really no comparison. And then enter AI, which I want to save for the last part of our discussion on this, because our show is about AI stealing creativity from the world with a song. And we're trying to fight it with human-made music, where we collaborate with Muses inside of people's brains with a mind travel machine. It's a very fun sci-fi thing, and it's so kind of relevant to this situation. So I want to save AI for the last.
We're trying to shut it down.
Yeah, we're trying to shut it down, right? And this is like, and the reality is setting in. So really, I mean, a couple of things that I wanted to throw out there. I wanted to bring up a clip here just to get a vibe, to get a feel of how these actors kind of feel about, well, maybe this is an extreme example. This is Ron Perlman. And I came
love
across Ron Perlman's post. Okay. I came across this because we just saw Ron Perlman last month and we were attending this Spookala event with our Cue the Muses booth. This is like a Comic Con that we talked about. And Ron Perlman was there and he was hilarious. He did a panel. He was up there just talking off the cuff. So funny, so blunt.
Fantastic human being. Awesome.
So good.
Awesome.
So
awesome
this is him talking to Hollywood. So let me see if I can get this up at the same time. Bear with me, guys. I'm going to try to do this.
The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial. Some of it is karma. And some of it is just figuring out who the fuck said that. And we know who said that. And where he fucking lives. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 fucking million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker. Be really careful. Because that's the kind of shit that stirs shit up. Peace out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know who he's talking about. That $27 million salary. Yeah.
Don't say
I
a
know
name.
who he's talking about.
I don't want to get sued.
Not going to say the name, but I will say he is a CEO of a very large one of those types of people. Yeah. Man, I love Ron Perlman, and
he's hilarious. But I mean, it's sad and it's serious too. I mean, I'm laughing because he's so charismatic with that, but it's a serious topic.
It is legit. I mean, so yeah, there's a quote. This is a different CEO, but a different CEO. This is a famous quote. It's all over the news right now. They're the CEO of the biggest production company, I think, in the world, was at what's called the Billionaires Summer Camp in Idaho. And the gentleman responded to the strike, and his response is, and I wrote this down. His response is, I quote, "There is a level of expectation that they have," they being the SAG organization and the Writers Guild. "There's a level of expectation that they have that's just not realistic. And they're adding to the set of challenges that this business is already facing." Now, that gentleman I know signed a contract, I believe his next 3-year contract to stay in the position that he is in is worth, I believe, $700 million.
Yeah. That's what I came across the same information.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, so one of the arguments that they also bring up is that, and this is something even my son was telling me about for the last few years, is like, none of these streaming platforms are profitable yet. Like Netflix actually didn't become profitable until like a few years ago.
He's right. He's right. Yeah. Netflix is the only one. Netflix is currently the only one that's not in the red.
Right. So then if that, all right, so there's two things to that. One, if that is true, then it's like, well, how do they pay more? But then how can it be true if that you're justifying 700? Well, I don't know the exact salaries of people for the exact streaming platforms, but when people are receiving paychecks upwards of $100 million, then the question becomes like, well, could that be divided up a bit differently? You know, and I'm all about capitalism, but when you hear about basically these people can't live. I mean, they're not making enough to live, and having a gig style job is, you are living from check to check. I've been doing gig work since I was 18. I mean, that's pretty much the only, I've never had like a 9 to 5. I've only done gig work, and I know what it's like. It's only been, I'm 40, and it's only been the last like 5 years that I can see into the future financially. It took that long to get to a point with my gigs. So I've been taking risks that long. So I identify with what these people are trying to do. There's a lot of interesting aspects to it that it starts to stir up in me. But basically, yeah, it sounds like a lot of people are making ton of money, surely that can trickle down to people making, I think that they're trying to get the minimum pay to be $27,000. We're talking about people that have moved out in a lot of situations to places to be in the production area. And that means that they're paying a lot for rent. They're paying a lot to be out there just to be in the scene. And in fact, that's been the biggest deterrent for me to want to, the whole time I've never pursued going out there, is because the cost of living just goes up so much that you have to do so much better on top of what you're already doing just to afford to be there. So it's even if you're going out there and you're making twice as much as you were in a small town, you're still actually living in a lesser way than you were before you left your smaller town.
It's a real thing. I mean, I came from a small town, and I had an improvement in my life in the last 5 years, and I relocated to a different part of the state that we live in, different part of Florida. And down here where I'm at, I found out everything is 10% more expensive, even down to the Twix bar at the gas station is 10% more expensive. It's unreal. And I'm in Central Florida. I'm not even down there in Miami. And this is Hollywood, California. And there was a excerpt I saw where Matt Damon said, some of these young actors are trying to, like you said, that they're trying to break that threshold where they make enough money to be eligible for health care.
Right. Yeah, they're riding that line, and it sounds like they're kind of manipulating the employers or manipulating the situation to have them cut just below that threshold mark so they don't have to cover that aspect. So,
and
it's tough.
To touch back on the writing too, what I saw in the research I did earlier was the writers, they're not necessarily getting paid less. I think there was actually a negotiation. They got paid more per week. Like as a writer in Hollywood, what I saw, basically they get a salary and they get a weekly salary, and it's actually pretty good. The number that I saw, it was on the 60 Minutes thing. I think it was there was an increase from $11,400 and it pushed it up to over 12. It was close to $13,000 a week. And now that's really good money. Now, again, that's in Hollywood, but the problem is the actors back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they would have up to 40 weeks worth of work for a season of 28 episodes, a full big season. Right. And now with the way streaming is working, the same contracts are now for 10 weeks. Or for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And then they have to find work in between. So basically, it's not to say that's a terrible thing in my mind. If you get a contract that lasts for 10 weeks and you're making over $10,000 a week, that's a pretty decent chunk. But then 10 years ago, you were getting 3 contracts a year stacked out 40 weeks. And you can do the math. It's
right.
It's 4 times more money. They're making 25% now that they were with the streaming platforms than they were with cable networks.
And I would assume that number that you're throwing out is still not the highest end, but somewhat on the higher end. Just to the example of this Kira Jones making $4,000 for the stream versus $12,000. I would assume that that's per episode. That's what my guess would be. So it's a weird one in that we're completely independent. We've never been a part of any guild. We're not in any of these areas. We're the example of 2 people out from smaller towns that are just trying to make this thing out of thin air ourselves with our own chops that we built up and accumulating people together. And so it's here, my question is, where does this strike right now? There's stipulations. You can't act, you can't write, you can't sell anything during this time. If you do, basically, and you're a SAG member, you'll be blacklisted. But the question is how far does that reach across the aisle to other people that are going to try to basically independents that have been trying to get something sold forever. And now there's this opportunity where they're going to be hungry for content. They're in the middle of negotiating, this situation with the union members. are these streaming platforms going to start reaching out more heavily to independents? And then what's the expectation of independents to not do anything, wait, and then let Hollywood pick back up again, at which point you're not being in the conversation again, and you're back to your small place? Is this, are you going to be shunned and blacklisted? It's I don't. And it's a weird one.
And there's some people out there, and again, I don't want to get into the AI conversation too early, but like with independent musicians, it became easier to make better, more professional sounding recordings at home with the improvement of these plug-in programs, like Amplitude for guitars and Superior Drummer, the Waves plug-in suite for stuff. And I use all of it. I love it. And now what did that do to studios versus what now could potentially be happening in Hollywood, with people like us. And I don't want to say we're not the bad guys. We're just guys. We're just, like you said, we're two independent people who are trying to break into a platform and a genre that we love, that we feel that we can add something entertaining. It's just fun. It puts a smile, and that's it. That's the goal, is to smile and to entertain people. And now, I think I
found our loophole.
What's that?
I found our loophole. Well, we're as I explain our loophole out loud, so you guys can't get mad at us if we get the opportunity to sell something. But I'm just saying, this was said. I want to know how you guys feel about it. But here, let me cue up this one very quick clip. But it is said. This is said here.
The broad nature of our membership, this strike does not affect all members of all contract areas, just those working under the 2020 TV theatrical contract. Performers working in interactive entertainment, audiobooks, music, commercials, and other contract areas will not be directly impacted. The strike will begin at midnight tonight, and all of us, union members, leadership, and staff, will be out on the picket lines tomorrow morning.
So are we good?
Awesome. I think we're okay. I think we're okay.
Like, are we okay, guys? Are you going to blacklist us if we sell our music? The thing is like, if the music is purchased by something like Netflix because it's a show, but we're ultimately every bit of advertisement that we have, guys, it says rock band, and then it goes on to say sci-fi comedy web series. So it's like, first and foremost, we're musicians, and we just wanted to come up with a fun way to put this stuff out there. And the thing is that I'm open to a record label opportunity. Maybe that's the right collaboration. However, where I wanted the show to end up was on a popular streaming platform. So it just does that mean we go to that? But guys, are we okay? Like, we have nothing to do with SAG. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get to be members. I don't know if that's even the right thing that we should be in.
I would, for I don't know, for the sole purpose that I would love to play a villain in Hollywood. I think that would be the coolest and most fun thing to do. I don't want to be the superhero. The superhero's got to have the dumbest script. Oh, I want to save everybody. The villain gets to have fun.
I mean, the thing is, like, it's not like we have any opportunity to talk to anybody. But what I do wonder is during this, where content gets paused, what is going to happen in the world of creators that are using things like YouTube? Because, I mean, at what point are you guys as SAG members allowed to put up your own personal content that is free, you're not selling it and all that? You could make money that way. Are we about to be flooded with Hollywood level talent making free content on YouTube? And that's what we're competing with, but they can't sell it back to it's a weird,
there's not a lot. Yeah, there's not a lot of like A-list Hollywood celebrities with a YouTube channel, George, as far as I know, George Clooney doesn't have a YouTube channel. Sandra Bullock doesn't have a
Will Smith does, but that kind of worked out pretty badly for him.
Oh, I love Will Smith too. I'm sorry that
I like Will Smith till he slapped Chris Rock, and then I just ever since I dude,
I think I realized I
cool,
liked
dude.
Chris Rock more than Will Smith that day.
I had more of a relationship with Will Smith, but I totally disrespect that you do that to a comedian for ultimately what was a gentle joke. We don't have to go down that whole thing, but the point is that he put himself out on YouTube, and then it kind of put too much of his life out there, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions about it and stuff, and it's just their relationship was so weird. I think at the end of the day, his wife ended up sleeping with one of their son's friends, so that's weird. And it'd be pretty infuriating. I would be so pissed.
No,
I would be
man,
devastated. I can't even imagine.
Bad.
I don't want to imagine. I'm not going to imagine. So, okay. So look, I threw that out there. About like, I honestly would love some participation in the comments anywhere on whatever platform you're finding this on YouTube. You can clearly just let us know if you're a SAG member that's come across this. Are we being jerks? I mean, I'd be surprised if you're this deep into our podcast if you don't know who we are and all that. But if you are and all, I'd love to have the conversation. I'm not like decided one way or the other. We're just two guys that are clueless about how the industry actually works because we've stayed on the outskirts of it the whole time. I own a production company in Tallahassee that I do branding videos for companies, and I make music videos for independent artists. And then we've been doing this passion project for like 4 years, and we're just trying to figure out what we can do to get it out there. And it's been extremely hard to get something off the ground where there's no way for advertisements and stuff without money, and we don't have the money for it. We put all of our money into the production of it. And anyway, that's that. But what I'd like to segue to is one quick note, and then I want to talk about AI. But this is interesting. All right, cool. Oppenheimer is a movie that I have been looking forward to for a year, and my son we're like dying to see it. But during the actual premiere of it in London is when the Actors Guild strike went into effect, and literally the actors walked off of the premiere. Now, I would assume that Christopher Nolan totally understood, knew that would happen if that happened. I'm sure that was no slight to Christopher Nolan. I'm sure everyone's good on that. Christopher Nolan's not in charge of their pay rate. And it's not that those actors weren't paid well. They are defending the little guys. That's why they're walking off. They're defending the rights for the little guys.
It's totally the A-list actors with the A-list paychecks are not the ones who are hurting right now. They're the ones who are helping the people who are on the outskirts of that society. The guys that are closer than you and I, but are further away from the center of that wheel. Somebody said a metaphor like the actors are the center of the wheel and everything revolves around them. And they said, well, that's bullshit, because if it was, we would be compensated better. And Oppenheimer, I just heard about that movie the other day, like yesterday.
Like one of my favorite directors all time. So,
dude, I went down a rabbit hole. I mean, you're talking about Robert Downey Jr. and Matt Damon, and who else? The main guy, the Peaky Blinders guy.
I always forget his name, but he's been in a bunch of Nolan's movies. He was Scarecrow in Batman.
Yeah. He played Scarecrow. He killed a dolphin. He killed a dolphin in a movie that was set on a ship, on like a whaling vessel. And he played a bad guy. Yeah, he plays a very good bad guy. Yeah, he killed a dolphin.
The bomb.
No, it's I'm really looking forward to it. But that movie is already done, edited, it's premiered. Now there's
it premieres Friday. I mean, it was like that was the premiere, but it comes out theatrically Friday, and actually there's a huge question mark from fans who are asking, is it okay for us to go watch the movie which supports Hollywood right now, or should we go on strike basically and not go participate in watching movies that theatrically are released? And for me, I would immediately vote, go see the movies that are out, show that Hollywood matters, especially when it's a movie that obviously is like, this is an example of what film can be, guys. This is the reminder of how powerful the medium is.
Running time is 180 minutes on Oppenheimer. I looked it up because I knew it was going to be a saga. I mean, and 3 hours, I feel like they had to have cut something from 3 hours. But I tell you, and I might get blacklisted for this, but I think a better thing to do is here, if there is a negotiation, right? And the actors and the writers demand this better compensation and they get it. And then a month or 2 months later, your streaming membership cost goes up $10 or $20 a month. Fuck no. Cancel it.
Hard on the table. Are they talking about increasing it to that?
No, but how else will these production companies recoup the cost of paying people more money and keep what they're used to getting on their salary other than subscriptions? That's how these streaming companies make the money. They make money by subscriptions. It's not so much by there's no advertisement because
it's totally a subscription based model.
Subscription based. So when
the reality is they're going to have to just make less money. I mean, personally, like I think that's the only. So too. I don't know if they can, because here's the deal: they already increased. Netflix lost a large chunk because they raised rates this last year, and even we were like, "Are we using it enough?" And even still, I wonder. Like, I barely have any time to watch stuff, so because I'm so busy.
I purged like last month or 2 months ago. I purged because I realized I had all of them at one time. I had Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, and Disney Plus. Yeah. Then I'm an Amazon Prime member, and Amazon Prime really kind of pissed me off because Prime has their video, Amazon Prime Video, underneath the Amazon Prime yearly membership. But then they sell individual memberships for HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, Paramount. There's a couple other ones, and they're paid. It's like a smaller number. Like you pay $5 a month for this one.
Yeah,
$7 a month.
It's just a vessel. It's a platform, a UI to purchase it through instead of.
Yeah, and so I got Paramount Plus because the new Beavis and Butthead episodes were on it. Mike Judge made a whole new season, brand new season of Beavis and Butthead.
Okay.
It's incredible. I feel like I got my money's worth. I paid $8 for 1 month of Paramount Plus and I watched all the episodes and that was perfect. Then I canceled it. Yeah. And there's nothing else on there I care about. I want to watch. Right. But to circle back around to what's happening with the strike now for things that are currently in production right now, one of the movies that I'm top tier stoked and excited and giddy for that's currently in production is Deadpool 3.
It paused.
Deadpool 3 I heard it wasn't paused. I heard that they could. Did they pause it? Because the last I heard, they said they were still filming, but they were going to film without the ability to do any rewrites or to do any on-set improvisations.
Which I think so that's accurate during the screenwriter strike, but once the actor strike went into effect, they had to officially pause production. So,
well, I feel better. Honestly, I feel better.
Because no improv from Ryan Reynolds on camera.
That's what I'm saying. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. What's going to be good about that movie? It's going to be Ryan Reynolds poking Hugh Jackman and being Deadpool, man.
Are you kidding me? Going to be their little improv tales and stuff. Which it's a weird stipulation from the writers. Like you're not allowed to say anything that's not on script. You can't improv. That's a weird one for me because I mean, we're two guys completely on the outside here, but a lot of our show is improv. It just seems like it's the opportunity to play while we're getting to do this to begin with. It's a form of creativity.
That's comedy. That's comedy.
It's talking out loud. You're not stealing anybody's script. You're improving. That's all you. Like, I don't know how you can say you can't be you. I don't
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, that's my opinion on it. I think that was overstepping the bounds a bit, but it was out of respect that they were going to do that. However, I had high suspicions that they were still going to improv and say it's in the script. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, we didn't deviate from the script at all. At the end of the day, I mean, with the limited experience I have from doing film scenes is you have fun with it.
Yeah,
you have fun with it, and there's no way you could go in there and not do an improv and not
for
not
comedy
make it,
in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, every Judd Apatow movie, every Will Ferrell movie. I mean, it's like these are
the outtakes at the end. You go to the outtakes, and they did that one scene 8 million
ways.
I can feel it in my plums. Let the boy
magic.
watch.
That's Will Ferrell getting to put his stamp on. Like, they're exploring 20 ways to say something, and surely Ryan Reynolds is that type of actor when it comes to his comedy. He's going to, and I would think the chemistry with him and Hugh Jackman and how they're going to do it would be the same. So, yeah. But anyway, they did. My understanding is that now they've had to pause it, and this affects everybody, though. I mean, everybody from the makeup artist to the clothes designers to locations not getting rented out, the caterers,
the caterers,
the showrunner. I mean, the just the daily runners and the assistants and everybody who doesn't make enough money already now can't be allowed to make money. So this is a hard situation for them to take on. Basically, and here's a last thing I'll throw out there. You got two things that they're fighting against that are big deals that seem very insurmountable to some degree. One, the streaming platforms do have so much content that's on demand that people can still access through this strike. It's not like there's a million things that people want to see that haven't had time to see it, so they can default to that. And two, this is another scary thing for them. Ultimately, I've heard that, and I know that this is the case, companies buy things and shelf them. The same thing happens in the music world. They'll literally buy things, shelf it, and then they'll put it out when they want to. They'll wait for people to become stars and then release a certain movie. So I've heard that the amount of content that they have shelved they could put out that's not top tier A list, but has a lot of these actors in it, that's just sitting there ready to go. So they can fill a void for a much longer time than somebody that's already living month to month to pay their rent. This is scary for them. This is a tough one.
Not to mention, like, especially with music, things that get released post-mortem, when Nirvana's You're Right came out.
Yeah,
brand new Nirvana song 10 years after Kurt Cobain died. The new Linkin Park stuff that came out just last year. This year, brand new Linkin Park songs. Chester's been gone for years, and it's unreleased stuff that they're releasing. It's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. And that's a different kind of thing, but it's
hopefully
still
his family is getting some of that. I would hope, but I don't know. I haven't looked at that at all.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like so to move into the AI portion of it, was this AI thing. So the biggest thing about AI that bugged me was this notion that there is on the table. The Actors Guild are protesting that AI could hire. They always hire extras in movies. There's always extras in movies. And my sister,
wild.
My sister actually moved to Hollywood back years back, and she was working as an extra in Hollywood. She was in a couple of cool things. I think she was an extra in one of the scenes of the show. I might be wrong, but Everybody Loves Raymond. Like, there was a scene, I think there was a scene in a coffee shop, and she was in the back having coffee with somebody. I was like, oh, look, there's my sister. That's awesome. And I think they got paid like $100 a day or something, and now with AI, these companies are trying to tell people, come in, we'll pay you $100 for the one day, scan your image. Then they can use your image with artificial programming in the shows as many times as they want to. Instead of paying you $100 for every day you're on set, you're only on set one day. Then they get to use your image forever for the same rate, and you don't get any.
I think the terminology was eternity. I think
eternity,
but I don't know. So I think there was some pushback on that to the extent of, and I still don't agree this is right. I think that this is complete bullshit. But I do think one studio exec rebutted back saying that it would be just for that singular project. But that is still, even if it is that. And what does that mean with sequels? Is that considered the same project or a season of something? I don't know. But even still, that's insane. $100 to $200 a day. They have control over you. They make a digital image of you and just plant you in. I mean, it's that is about as gross as it gets to just end the game for anybody that's pursuing, a career in acting, because a lot of times the extra is how you get on set. You see how the set works. You see how the production flow works. You network. You meet people. Somebody knows about a different gig. If you're going and at $100 a pop, you're giving away your digital image that just gets repeated. And all. I mean, this is terrible. This is gross.
No,
Who came up with pitching that idea?
It's so stupid. And it's like also with the voicing. Another disturbing one was the voicing. Like the same conversation went on to, okay, we have a program you can plug in and you can say, I want to use Morgan Freeman's voice speaking in perfectly fluent Spanish, the phrase, I would like to have eggs for breakfast. And it punches it out. And it's his voice. It's his voice.
Sure.
It's his voice. And then, he would deserve, I feel he would deserve compensation for that. Morgan Freeman, use Morgan Freeman's voice. Morgan Freeman needs to get a paycheck. If you get if you pay another voice actor who is an impersonator who sounds like Morgan Freeman, I feel like that's a different story. You're paying that man to do a talent that he has. You're not paying Morgan Freeman money. You're paying Morgan Freeman, impersonator money. But to program AI to do my voice, then how does that trickle over to music, man? Down the line, if they start doing that, oh my goodness, then Harmonia is real. Then Harmonia, okay.
Well, Harmonia is kind of real, man. I mean, I was hearing some. I mean, in a way, Harmonia is the name of our AI in our show that created the song. We wrote this 4 years ago, so it's just. But Harmonia, it's basically already real in that there's already music that's coming out. There's a Drake song that came out completely AI generated. It ingested the entire Drake catalog, came up with a song that was in a certain direction that was prompted. And the song, for whatever stint of time, was outperforming the original song for the amount of plays. Now, I would tie some of that to curiosity, people checking it out to know. But a lot of people said it was really good. And we have to keep in mind, guys, everything that we're talking about, this is absolute infancy. This is the baby level of where it starts and is accessible to people. And the thing is, it's like there's some weird stipulations going on here. So with AI, just relating it back to the movie industry for a moment and the script writers aspect, things like Chat GPT, which is something I've been exploring personally. Script writers are worried that scripts are going to be just flat out written by Chat GPT or similar language learning models. And ultimately, they might just bring on a writer or two at the end to polish it up with some human flavor. And we know that the stories are only going to get more and more evolved and better and sound more and more human-like as the programs get better and better. And so the thing is I understand the demand, the request, the desire to say you cannot do that, but I also don't understand how you'd regulate it. I don't know how you'd monitor if a script writer, like that means that you got to be monitored the entire time that you're coming up with an idea. You can't write something down at your own house in your bathroom while you're taking a shit, and two, where's the cutoff line for the actual industry people that want to use the AI for their as tools, like I am doing in certain cases. So, even Adobe is implementing AI throughout its system that's in beta versions on a lot of these programs, but it's auto doing a lot of the heavy lifting, which is going to make things not only easier and allow for more output from me or other video makers, but it's also going to enable you to put more of that time that you're paid for potentially into the most artistic aspects of the creation, right? Like rather than doing all the prep stuff. So yes, people will lose jobs. Yes, people are going to be empowered as individuals to do bigger and grander things that normally would have taken teams of people to do. And we want to make sure that everyone has jobs, but at what point how do you just dictate that you guys as a movie industry cannot use that? We're allowed to use it to a certain extent, whatever cutoff line that is, as our tool set to make you guys what you want. These are hard things, almost impossible things, I feel, to enforce. And then last thing, and I promise I'll let you talk. What about people that are going to get wrongly accused of having used something when they didn't? How do you prove that you didn't use something to come up with your idea?
Oh, yeah, that opens a whole other door of this situation where, people, I read earlier that someone in Hollywood said, and it might have been Fran Drescher, the president of SAG. It might have been someone else. I don't want to misquote the person, but the what they said was, if an AI program lets a person generate an entire episode of a show, like they plug in, this is going to get to the point where you plug in, I want to watch a Western show. And this is quoting what I watched. I think it was 60 Minutes. I want to watch a Western show set in Texas with cowboys and a male lead.
You as a consumer typing this, a viewer.
Yeah. A consumer, yourself. Just somebody typing it into a program that they had. And then that program generated a show. Right. And then he took that show, and then the person in Hollywood was saying that is someone that doesn't have talent pretending to have talent, using all those extra tools. And I can tell that is the person who has been working in the industry who is very threatened by the possibility. I could feel, again, to relate back to music, I could feel being a producer in the 80s into the 90s, and then all of these home studios coming out with these programs, making it easier you don't need all these, multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment to do it. I can see the threat from that. Yeah. But at the same time, the being able to utilize that as a tool to improve the time frame, to improve the throughput of output per person, it is undeniably beneficial in that aspect. And to quote the CEO of Google, I might have his name wrong. I can't read my handwriting. Sundar Pichai, the current CEO for Google, he said AI will be as good or as evil as we allow it.
Right.
And it's true. I mean, it is as powerful of a tool
how do you even, this is so out of everybody's control, I mean, yes, it's capable of being evil. It's capable of being good. But I mean, the thing is, nobody can actually dictate where it goes. ChatGPT has some sensors on it, like censorship. And it's very obvious when you ask it to do something that it doesn't want to do, where it basically says it can't. It's not programmed to do that. But there's workarounds to all this stuff. I mean, if you talk to it a certain way, you can get it to answer that question. You can get it to give you that. And I've done it. And it's an interesting exploration. But to think that we're going to have control over this stuff or can control it, it's a weird one. So then if you slap, who's regulating it? Are we saying that ultimately that the Actors Guild can regulate how, and Writers Guild, or can really regulate how and when AI is used for entertainment? I don't understand how you do that.
Not right now. AI is regulated by the owners, the proprietors of the software. So ChatGPT is owned by Microsoft, and then the other one, the Bard program, is owned by Google.
Right.
And the Bard program, so ChatGPT, to my understanding, is based on an exact duplicate copy of the internet that was basically snapshotted 3 years ago. I think
2021 is cut off, September 2021.
Yeah. So it's all of humanity's cumulative knowledge on the internet cut off at 2021. Now,
however, there's plugins that people are using to get it to access the current internet.
Oh, wow. I
haven't done it yet. It's apparently a little bit complicated, but people can do it and are doing it.
Okay. So then eventually, inevitably, it's going to have access to the current internet.
Correct.
That we have today. Now, Bard is different. Bard is Google's version of ChatGPT. Bard is Google's search engine AI software. And Bard is based on a language-based software. It's not connected to the internet. It is more of a linguistic program. So Bard takes basically the input that you put in, and it calculates the most reasonable linguistic continuation or response to what you've put in. And now it's a form, it's more of a language software. So what
Well,
Bard did
they're both, just to clarify, they're both considered language learning models.
yes.
They're both language learning. And what confuses me about that a bit is that with Bard, what I've liked about using it is that it can give me direct links on the internet that I can go to. Whereas with with ChatGPT, you can't. You can only get like the title of stuff, where Bard
And then you have to
give you
search it
links.
separately.
Yeah.
Really?
In fact, Bard will pull up Amazon links. I've had it do that for me. So I don't know if that's an evolution of it. However, Bard is not nearly as accurate as what ChatGPT is. And it's
not
much more beta.
It's because it's not based on the internet. So Bard, they put in Ernest Hemingway's famous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 word story, and they input it into Bard, and Hemingway's famous 6 word story is 3 sentences with 3 periods. It's baby shoes, period, for sale, period, never worn, period. So baby shoes for sale, never worn. And they plugged that into Bard, and they asked Bard, this was on 60 Minutes, they asked Bard, complete this story, complete this 3-sentence phrase into a story. What Bard put back out was a very, very anthropomorphic inducing reaction type of story, that it made a story how a parent had lost its child, and they went through the grieving process, and then they put the baby shoes that they bought for their unborn child who was stillborn on for sale and all that. And it was just like, there was a lot of reactive emotion from that story, because it played on an emotional cue. And they also had it write a poem, like it was like a 10 phrase poem about the same 3 phrase thing, but this program put it back. But because it was such a pinpointed topic, it really made people resonate and feel it literally made you anthropomorphize this program, because it made you feel like it was a human reading it back to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But at the same time, they also asked that program, the Bard program, to write an essay on modern day inflation, advanced modern day inflation. And it did. It wrote a full page essay, but it linked 5 books for reference in the essay. Then when they searched for the books, they were totally fictitious. The program literally made up fake books.
Hallucinations. The hallucinations is the term, and Bard has a lot more of them when I've tested it. However, my recent testing of it's been a lot more accurate. But ChatGPT, really the only reason I've gone to Bard is if I needed to check on something that's more recent. And then I have to ask it, are you sure about this? And can you give me a citation to where you reference the information? So I'm like still double checking it. ChatGPT can be inaccurate too, but it's way more consistently accurate. And it's pretty phenomenal, like some of the stuff that I've gotten it to do. Maybe I'll save it for another episode where I'll read like how, but the big thing is you can talk to it like like you're having a conversation. It's not like you have to think of it like a Google search. So I literally gave it a circumstance that I was going to be in with my production situation. And I went in depth. I explained what my plan was, what I was going to do for this, and that. And then I said, what do you think? And then it gave me all these ideas of things that I should think about. And it was totally customized to the exact tools that I said I was going to be using, how I would combine them with things, and things that I should keep in mind. And it brought up several things I didn't even think of that I implemented, and it worked in real life. It was really cool.
And that's the plus side. That's the modern day human using modern day human tools, which is AI, to benefit the goal, to improve your performance through this, which is essentially an augmentation of how we operate as professional people in the world.
So then where is that cutoff line?
That's what
how can you stipulate you can't use you guys can't use that? We can use it if we want to, and you have to pay us to use it, even though you have access to it as well. I don't know. That's a hard one, man. I don't.
Yeah, it is, but like it's tough when it starts taking away from an artistic person's livelihood.
Yeah.
It's a problem, and like I feel like what's happening right now is a lot of these high castle type of executives are saying these are the casualties of progress type of thing,
Which is what's being said, with every other industry that AI is affecting. It's just that the creative sector was kind of supposed to be the safe zone. The human invention creation part wasn't supposed to be able to be like, that's what it's the last thing it'll be able to do. And we'll still know.
That's what our show is about. Our show is about
that.
What happens 10 years from now when AI has completely taken over all of human creativity and no one has the attention span to sit down long enough to write a 10-page story, to draw, to paint a fucking painting that takes 3 weeks to complete.
And our solution,
nobody has the patience. They just want to punch it into GBT and have them put it in. The throughput of these processors is 10 times the speed of the human brain. So it would take one person the same amount of time to write one story as it would the AI to do 10,000 stories.
Well, that's right. That's why it's not even comparable. The question is the quality of the story. I mean, is it something like this,
Okay, man. On my 3 count, engage your pedal for transport. 1, 2. Wait. What?
On 3 or the 3 count, back to 1.
On a 3 count because we're musicians.
Okay, but you know how confusing that is, right? Like you're telling me it's 3, but that's coming in on 4.
Dude, it's just like playing music, man. Playing 3. I thought you'd kind of dig it.
All right. It's cool, man. Let's just go.
Okay.
You know how confusing that is, right? Telling me we're going on 3, but you're coming in on 4.
Fine. It's fine. Just start the count.
Just start the fucking count, man.
Today.
1, 2.
I'm gonna go on a 4 count instead of a 3.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ash.
Dick?
Holy shit, Dick.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, we'll see.
Would an AI be able to come up with that?
The answer is yes, and no. Yes and no. The difference is the AI will build some shit that looks kind of like that. It'll all be CGI. It'll all be renderings of people's faces and voices and a catalog of human history being recreated in its own artificially generated way. But you won't have you wouldn't be able to look in and say, hey, that's a strainer cauldron from Home Depot. That's somebody. Those are 2 Boss effects pedals that are bolted to the fucking wall, and they're pressing these. That's the fun part of making. That was for me. That was the fun part of making our show. Was okay. We have to take this room. That's just a room. We have to turn it into a mad musician scientist laboratory. How the fuck are we going to do that? Well, let's just start throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Well, you can literally see that was the method used to create the wall.
Yeah, we just started in the improvisational aspect of both building, acting, playing music, writing music. It's all that's that spontaneous human element. and the
Well, and
human
that's the
element
other
is what
thing
we're
is
trying to
like,
preserve.
can it then create, you know, music that's original sounding?
I won't fight, just fucking take it, do whatever, just don't break. It's never seen the light before. You just get one, I don't have more. If love is grief, nowhere to go, then wretched torment stops the flow. These errant thoughts might be my own, collapse to fetal, then to prone. I see them cresting rolling hills, they'll never stop, they'll never fill.
I'm just saying, it's
Exactly.
you know, it's weird, zappy, zany stuff, guys. Check it out. Cue the Muses. We are for, well, I don't know if we're for sale or not. SAG, let us know. Are we allowed to sell this right now, or will we piss you off? If so, maybe we need to sell it to a music industry.
We
leader.
just want to be friends. We want to be a part.
We're trying really hard over here. We have. Go ahead.
I want to be a part of SAG. I want to be a part of SAG. Ash wants to be a part of SAG. I think it'd be cool. I think that, and I definitely support anytime labor force is feeling that they're being pushed over and stepped on by the man, you know, and that's essentially what's happening. I'm in the construction industry, and the construction industry has notoriously had far more strikes than the Screen Actors Guild. I think the Screen Actors Guild now has had 3 or 4 in the 100 years since it's happening. I couldn't tell you how many union strikes, you know, labor strikes, and I see it all the time. You know, I work for a large development company that builds large apartment buildings, and the labor force that's on site, you know, I deal from everyone from multi-millionaire executive level investors to the labor who's hired on a daily rate of an embarrassingly low amount of money to do just mundane stuff. But you find that some of those people are some of the most genuine and genuinely awesome and amazing and interesting people, more so than the higher up people. And it's just something that it comes with change. And right now we're in a time of change and a time of advancement that is insanely faster than it's ever been. It's never been this fast.
Unprecedented. It's a completely new landscape. Absolutely. They should remodel how the pay structure works, with streaming being a part of the equation now, especially to the level that it is, and its domination over the, you know, the income that's coming in from the entertainment industry. So I support all of that. And I don't mean to sound like a jerk about the AI stuff. It's just, it's a weird one, because, you know, we made a show about beating an AI because it's evil, but at the same token, I do acknowledge the power that it gives to artists. And it's hard for me to not want to use it. I think it's going to be very hard for artists to not, other artists and actor, you know, everyone to not want to use this in some fashion or form, as it kind of seeds itself across all these different ways it can be used. And I think that we need to, my personal opinion is that we're going to have to accept its use, and ultimately it's got to be a synergy. That's the only balance. We can't dictate that it can't be used. We can only dictate to the level that there is a synergy there, and identify that, you know, the human has to continue to prove itself. And I think that in a way we will gradually learn more and more about what makes us human through this experience of seeing this AI develop itself as it gets closer and closer to general intelligence. Guys, we were approaching an hour and 9 minutes, which is the longest podcast we've done. We wanted to do one that was on the fly like this, a little bit more sooner than our normal schedule, because this is such an interesting topic to us, and how it affects independent filmmakers in general. We don't know. I'm curious to see how much I'm curious to see what the standards are for independent filmmakers to sell their content, how much stuff's going to come out, YouTube. And,
Please give us feedback. Please give us feedback. If any listeners out there are members of SAG who are currently on strike, talk to us. Even, you know, you can message us individually. You don't have to be on the show or anything if it breaks any of the rules of what's going on. But, you know, let us know how you feel about it, how it's affecting you, how the AI thing is doing. It's undeniable that AI is going to be a useful tool for the future progression of the arts. However, like Ash said, where's the line?
Yeah.
Tell us where you think the line is.
We're curious. We're very curious. Guys, if you made it to the end of this, we really appreciate it. We're a brand new podcast. We love you. If you want to check out our show, it's cuethemuses.com. It's written here right on the screen, and the first 2 episodes are free. The music's up. Everything's free, guys. We're just trying to get people to know it exists.
Please like and subscribe. Please like our Facebook page. Please share it with your friends. I don't know how else to get the word out there.
That's all
it used to be
guys.
easier.
We're
out.
All right. Peace, guys. Take care.
Peace, love, and we're out.